Hello and welcome to this webinar. I have the honor and privilege of introducing Professor Venkatesh, Chairperson NSR Cell, I am Bangalore. Professor Venkatesh has been one of our guides and mentors in game, and it's my privilege to actually invite him to this webinar. Professor, thank you so much for coming and giving us your time. This webinar, as our viewers know, is a short snippet of all of our various partners and well-wishers who work in the micro entrepreneurship space. And we ask these experts and influencers their insights so that it can be helpful for other micro entrepreneurs. So in that vein, I'd go on to my first question, Professor. Can you tell us a bit about NSR Cell shortly, briefly, and also how are you advising your entrepreneurs in what is clearly a world with a new normal? Over to you.
Thank you, Shantanu. Thank you for this opportunity. It's wonderful to share some thoughts. Again, we are completely, as you said, in a new normal world. So whatever I say may not completely hold at all. But it is it's an interesting time. So let me put it mildly. Uh, NSRCell is one of the oldest academic incubators in the country, and what has helped us through these 20 years is that we focus on the entrepreneur and not the venture. So it is sort of, it's a slightly different take. So the idea is that we want people to succeed in the entrepreneurial journey, but not necessarily in the venture that they came to us with. And that's something that we are very proud of because we've recently collected some data, and we found out that more than 70% of the people who came to NSR Cell have continued to be entrepreneurs 3 years after they left NSR Cell,
Wow.
which has
Okay.
been phenomenal sort of success for us. And I think out of that 70, almost I think the equal number, 70%, are in the same venture, which also is even better statistic. Somehow they managed to survive. So I think that in a nutshell tells what our focus is. So we are not hung up on the idea that they come to us with, but what we try to do is to help them in the mindset and the approach, and that's something that and so currently we have a range of programs catered to different kinds of entrepreneurs. Some of them programs are dedicated to women. About 70% of all our startups are co-founded by women, which is another huge fact that we are very proud of. We also run programs for student entrepreneurs. We run programs for social entrepreneurs. We are the first incubator to incubate a non-profit entrepreneur. Somebody who wants to start an NGO. So that's something. So we are again we are sector agnostic, so we don't focus on any particular domain. But at the end of the day, our focus is to help them in the journey and provide them with what they need as opposed to what we think they need. And that I think is a big difference as well. So we spend a lot of time trying to understand the entrepreneur, and a variety of people help us with that process. Um, so coming to your main question on the new normal, right? I think I just want to give you an anecdote, not an anecdote, it's more like a sort of a parable, and many people must have heard of this, of a bear, So friends in a forest confront a bear, and so one of them very coolly bends down and is trying to tie his shoelaces, and the other friend is panicking and he's saying, at this time, how can you think of tying your shoelaces? And then this guy says, no, I don't need to worry about outrunning the bear. I need to outrun you in order to survive. So it's not like I'm not worried about the bear. I'm worried about outrunning you. So I think that's the kind of a story for the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur shouldn't be worried about what is going to happen to the whole world, the economy and those things. He has to make sure that he can survive, he or she can survive compared to the others out in the market. So as long as they can survive, they are there to play the game the next day. And that's the focus. So what we have been trying to tell them is that, whatever it takes, try to survive this uncertain period, because as you can see from the newspapers, nobody in the world knows what's going to happen. I mean, people keep projecting things, and there are consultants who are writing reports, but at the end of the day, nobody has a clue how this is going to end. But all you can do at your end as an entrepreneur is stay in the game. And what does it take to stay in the game? You need to know, you would know that better. So for some of them, it is preserving cash, liquidity. Some of them is about making sure your customer is happy, even though they are not paying you or they are canceling contracts. Somehow you manage to keep them engaged. So we in fact run programs on how to engage customers when there are no sales, that sort of thing. Similarly, how do you ensure that everybody who's connected to you, because unlike in the traditional, I mean, unlike in certain kinds of crises that have happened before, and most entrepreneurs who have seen multiple crises in their lives, this is a crisis which has affected everyone, right? So which means whether your vendor, a bank, your customer, investor, everybody is suffering. So therefore, at best, what you could do is bring them along with you. For example, try to be a little bit more transparent in what you're doing. It's not like the other person will not understand, because this is a situation where everybody is in the same boat. So carrying people along with you, whether it is a vendor or a customer, is very critical. And at the same time, try to make sure that you have what is necessary to survive the next, and take each day separately. So don't focus too much on long term. 3 months, 6 months. Those are all time periods that you shouldn't be worried about right now.
Okay, okay. Is that, I mean, uh, that sounds like very sort of different advice from most other entrepreneur development organizations, because people are very quick to start thinking, much like even Game would do, which is that what are the new opportunities, how is economic demand going to drop, what is the measure of economic demand. But I see NSR Self is sort of keeping it very simple and saying sort of live every day. um,
Till the
uh,
dust settles. Till the dust settles. See, the opportunities are not. It's not like things are. People should be completely shut out from what is happening. But the focus is that if you get distracted with the pie in the sky, it's a chance that you may get hit by a car,
sure,
while you are
sure.
gazing at the stars.
Correct,
So
correct.
I
Good
think
point.
the idea is that keep your nose grounded.
Sure. So in that vein, Professor, can you share some 2 or 3 stories with our viewers on any entrepreneurial stories who've sort of come out of this, who have shown that they can adapt, and you can also be hopeful even in these times. Maybe a couple of human interest
Yeah,
stories would be very interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So I'll give you two examples. One which is an innovation on the process. The one which is the innovation of the product. So there are two startups who have taken advantage of the current situation in two different ways. No? So there is this company which was into rental of agricultural sort of heavy equipment. So this company was focused on helping farmers not have to worry about using the right mechanized instrument for their farm. So this was their business pre-COVID, and so through that, what they had done is they had created an intermediary called AgriMitra, so which is essentially somebody like an intermediary who actually goes out on the ground in a motorbike and talks to farmers. So each one will cover, let's say, 10 or 15 farmers. And what they will do is they will understand the farmer's needs for mechanized, let's say, like a tractor or something like that, and communicate the demand upstream to this company. And this company will then identify how to rent, I mean, how do you provide rental equipment so that at the right time, the farmer has the right equipment. Okay, so that was the pre-COVID model. So what they had not anticipated in post-COVID is that suddenly all these farmers had produce which were not being able to be delivered to the marketplace because the whole chain, the supply chain got broken because of the COVID lockdown. So this company, what they did was in the process side, they quickly understood that they had the biggest asset with them, which is the connect to the farmers. While on the other hand, there were hundreds and hundreds of apartments in Bangalore which were struggling to get their produce delivered because of the lockdown. Right? So they quickly pivoted to take advantage of this opportunity to say that look, we have the connect to the farmers. We will collect the produce and then using the agri-mitras and creating a new set of delivery people, we will deliver it to your apartment's doorstep. And and very quickly they leveraged another startup in our stable, which was actually into helping mechanics. Basically, they were producing the basically helping the non-dealer car mechanic shops. So for example, there are hundreds of these small mechanic shops, right? They were trying to digitize them by creating automated platforms for them. Again, pre-COVID, right? So now, but this company had the technology to aggregate information across people and then creating one single sort of unified list. So that company immediately shared their backend platform to this farmer company, farmer agriculture rental equipment company, and together they created a platform by which apartments can put in their orders, how much onions they need, how many potatoes they
Wow.
need, and so on.
Okay.
And using that, they were able to get from the farmers, package them, and deliver it to your doorstep. And they were able to get the license to move around. During the lockdown, they were one of the people who got permits. Again, we helped them get that permit. So these are things where a company which was doing something else but had the knowledge or had the wisdom to see that I have the connect to the farmers, and they were able to bring those produce to the market. So this is the process of how somebody innovated in the process.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow.
there was another company which is on the product side. So this was a company which was doing 3D printing of certain equipment for the automotive sector. And this company was one of our student-run startups. They had already had, like they had created 10 or 15 3D printers. They were already reaching certain good scale of producing products for the automotive sector. And then once the COVID hit, they completely repurposed their product design to be able to do 3D printing of ventilators and some of the valves and equipments needed for the medical for the medical side of the COVID. Uh, and so they completely repurposed their machineries. I mean, basically their office, the factory, to be able to use this at scale and then distribute the hospitals and so on. So this is a product innovation where a startup realized that they had the 3D, except that we needed a new design, and they quickly got together with some medical professionals,
Okay.
created the 3D design, and then so both have been very successful. They've gotten some investments from outsiders now, and so I call them, these are entrepreneurs who are basically making lemonade when you have lemons thrown at them, even though they started wanting to make orange juice. So they were going along the path of making orange juice, and then suddenly life threw lemons at them, and they
Got
said,
it.
okay, let's make lemonade.
Interesting. Interesting. I mean, that's good. That's and it at some level, Professor, how are you celebrating these stories, or how are you publicizing them, or are you talking about this? Because these are interesting stuff. I think people would like to know and believe that if you actually do this, then you can also change. I mean, how
Yeah.
how are you communicating this to the wider world and ecosystem?
Yeah, so we have right now we have done this on a transactional basis, right? In the sense, as and when these stories come, we post it in our social media, we publicize it forums. We bring it to the attention of the national, like for example, the departments of science and technology, and in fact, some of them have been invited to our meetings when these presented their ideas. But now we are coming up with a storybook, literally of how NSRs and startups had been successful during the COVID situation. So we have about 14 or 15 of them right now in different areas, and so we are putting them together as a story of how the entrepreneurs. We'll soon be releasing it both as a video as well as a book.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Excellent. Excellent. Right. Now to my third question and last one, Professor. Like we're saying, there are so many great stories. So broadly, how can NSR Cell add and help the ecosystem of entrepreneurship, not just startup, but also micro entrepreneurship? What are the different ways that you could think about or you could look at, um, and knowledge dissemination, capacity building, or even creating just a story or a narrative of hope that everything is not doom and gloom, but the people who survive can then live the next day and do better. So some ideas. I mean, I'm normally looking for themes right now. I'm not looking for commitments, of course, but I just want to place that question: how can NSR Cell help the ecosystem?
So let me start with what have we been doing already. Okay, so that gives you a sense of how we have approached this problem. So the first and foremost thing we did was to try to take care of the entrepreneur. So I mean, very quickly, I think within a week of the COVID crisis, we had moved the entire machinery of NSR Cell online, which meant every aspect of NSR Cell, whether it is mentoring, whether it is working with investors, working with different programs, everything moved online very quickly. So we were very fortunate that we have a vibrant team of young people, who are very savvy with technology and so on. So they were able to quickly put the right set of tools together and move NSR Cell completely online. So that was the first thing we did, so which meant that the startups were supported seamlessly during the crisis. The second thing we did was to focus on the entrepreneur, which would mean that if as you would have noticed, right, the first thing is a huge level of uncertainty, and many of them would be like deer in a headlight. Right? They are stuck, and a lot of them they freeze. What to do? So what
Correct.
we did was we quickly arranged a whole lot of huddles where we brought all kinds of startups together just to share what's going on in their lives. We have what is called a general startup huddle where everybody, obviously most of the people who started were already were people who are in the current programs, but we also invited our alumni, people who had been there 6-7 years back, who had gone through the previous crisis. So a lot of people who came just share what they did under various situations. I think that idea of bringing them together and hearing everybody's story helped many of them calm down. Now if you feel like everybody is doing the same thing, everybody is struggling, everybody is trying to figure this out. It's not just me. So that was the on the business side. So on the personal side, we arranged sort of a mental health sessions, which was another important thing we noticed. Right? I think one of the things we have learned from our previous crisis, startups from the previous crisis who have shared with us, is that when this sort of crisis hits, right, many of them they bottle up. The entrepreneurs bottle up and do not share it with even their family members. So the family itself does not know the extent of the kind of problems the company and the entrepreneur is facing, and that's not good, because at some point in time you will break down. So what we did was we put together some mental health professionals, and this is like very expensive one. Huh? We end up paying for it. Um, we got that kind of support where startups can talk to them in a completely confidential way. For example, we would not know who talked because the entire set was kept confidential from even us, even though we are paying the bills. Um, so So the idea was the startup can freely explore what's going on in their mind and get a professional to help them out. And that actually was very useful. We also helped buddy them up with alumni. So that way, they were feeling that they were not alone in the journey. So somebody was walked in a previous crisis and helped them. So these are all things that we did to help the startups sort of settle down and and then look at the opportunity, or look at how to survive. So that was the one. The second thing which we thought we could do better than others is because of the network. See, we are very good in because of the IMB connection. We have quite a bit of extensive networks to tap to. So what we did was, let's bring the network to play. So what a couple of things we did in that is, for example, we are working with farmer producer organizations now, because some of the problems faced by FPOs is again not being resolved by either the government or by the private sector right now.
Sure.
And they're also struggling, right? So what we said was, okay, there are many startups which may be happy to solve it for you. The problem, for example, some of them it could be simple delivery. How do I get the produce to the market? For some of them, it could be that how do I arrange for my supply chain? How do I get cold storage? So there are multiple solutions which are already out there. Is there a way in which we can bring them together in front of these people and then let the connection happen? So the idea is that the interface is organic. We are just facilitating them to connect. After that, we let the market figure it out. So that's a network kind of thing that we did. So we are doing this for agri and rural, and we have done it for students and similar things for this. So now we are now trying to understand whether we can build something for returning migrant families. So this is a new program which will be started. So the idea is that now you have, at least on paper, a lot of people return. I mean, my financial hat, as a finance professor, my hat tells me that they will return soon. Because at the end of the day, it's a livelihood issue, right? It's too attractive to not to come back.
Sure, sure.
But at the same time, the government is trying hard to keep them in the same place, to keep them back to the rural area. So what we are trying to do is, if they decide to stay back for various reasons, is there a way to occupy them intelligently and make them entrepreneurs?
Sure.
Because these are smart people who have survived the urban, the urban jungle. So we are now working with a couple of large NGOs to see whether we can put together a program, and that is something that I am excited. If that is something that we could build, then it can be a very useful program even in other times. To keep people back in the rural areas, not to make them migrate. Because the quality of life suffers otherwise.
Sure, sure. Interesting, interesting. Very good.
And of course, one more thing, the sustaining hope part of it, which is, so we are actually sharing some of the positive stories through the social media handle, having in some of these social huddles where people talk about the positive side, and things like that. And I think the best part of all this is that there are many organic relationships that have come forward on their own. Where, like the example that I gave you, where a garage company sold their back end, or offered their back end to an agricultural company. That's sort of where the relationships and the synergies are organically sort of determined.
Sure.
Or, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. No, I mean, very positive to hear that. At GAME, we'll come back to request help from NSR Cell and its large alumni body, as well as potential mentors we can get them for some micro entrepreneurs. This has been a very insightful discussion. Thank you so much, Professor. And we hope to work with NSR Cell together as much as possible. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gabe, and thank you, Chandra, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much.